Mel Stride, is it true that you've had to suspend social media campaigning because the party doesn't have the funds for it?
Not that I'm aware of, so that's news to me, Trevor. What I'm aware of is a very vigorous campaign with lots of activity right across the country, fighting for every vote.
OK, well, part of what you have to fight for this weekend is, to be honest, the Prime Minister's reputation. He's apologised for his absence in Normandy. Your cabinet colleague, Penny Mordaunt, said on Friday that he was wrong. But I just want to ask this. He's yet to say what was so important that he had to miss the climax of the commemoration for the 4,426 who fell on D-Day. Has he told you what was so important?
I've not discussed it. What I do know is that he has recognised that he made a mistake. He deeply regrets that. He has apologised unequivocally for that. In fact, he uses that formulation.
Indeed.
And I apologise.
But if I may say so,
yeah.
It's a bit odd, and if I may say so, unfair, that they're sending you out on the Sunday morning round and nobody has told you why it was that the Prime Minister couldn't stay for the international commemoration, has endured, I guess, 2 or 3 days of criticism over it. You're speaking with the party this morning and nobody's told you why he couldn't be there?
So we know what the other engagement was.
Did you ask, by the way?
We also know...
Did you ask
I haven't
why he couldn't be
spoken
there?
to the Prime Minister since that, so I don't have any direct discussion that I can share with you that I've had with the Prime Minister. But, Trevor, he attended the events in Portsmouth, he attended the British-led
I get all that, we've heard all that.
He's accepted. And can I just say
with the greatest
something?
respect, it's a bit baffling.
Can I...
You've had 3 days of this. You are sent out to bat for the party and nobody tells you, you haven't asked. The first question is, why couldn't he be there? What was the reason?
Well, this was, and I think this has been made public, that there were engagements that were in the diary before the election was called, etc. But the important point here, Trevor, what matters is that a recognition has been made that a mistake has been made and the Prime Minister has apologised for this. Now, look, okay. I do know, just let me make this point, I do know Rishi pretty well. In fact, I consider him as something of a friend. And I know that he's a deeply patriotic person who cares greatly about this country. Not least, in fact, if you look at the evidence around the cabinet table, you've got Johnny Mercer, our Veterans Minister, the support. Well, I don't think these things can be dismissed because some people have taken a particular interpretation of events. I'm glad you said that.
I'm not
remarks
interested in his psychology.
Are very unfair.
I'm not interested in his psychology. The point is, the Prime Minister represents this country normally. Actually, President of the United States, Chancellor of Germany, President of France, our Foreign Minister, former Prime Minister. Now, it just makes the country embarrassed. And the reason is, the reason I think this has become such a big deal is this. Let me put it this way. The Prime Minister is never slow to boast about his facility with numbers. In the Battle of Normandy, the Americans lost 29,000 soldiers, the Canadians 5,000, the French 12,000. And we won't even talk about what happened to the Germans. Did the Prime Minister not know those numbers, or did he just not care? That's the question.
I think the question is
no, the question I'm asking you is,
did
he know those
I don't know.
And he did not. Was he just not bothered?
No, absolutely not. Look at Rishi Sunak's record.
Hold on.
You've got to give me a chance
what he did on Thursday.
You've got to give me a chance to answer your question.
But you're not answering my question.
No, I haven't had a chance to, actually, to be fair.
All right.
OK, so what I'm saying is, look, when it comes to what has happened, he has made an unequivocal apology.
You've said that already.
I know he will be feeling this very deeply.
You said that already.
And let me just talk about his record and how he stands up for our country.
Sorry,
because you're not letting me move on to these points.
Because you said that twice already. And the question I'm asking you is, look at that picture, as 60 million Britons do, and ask yourself the question that they are asking. Did he understand the weight of this event, or did he not care enough
Of
about
course
it.
he understood the weight of this event.
Well, why
and I do
was-
think the points
why did
that
he
you've
say-
stopped me making, the
Why did
points, Trevor, that you've stopped me and prevented me from making
Okay.
are very appropriate, because you're now saying, does he not care? This man cares very deeply about our country, and I know that because I know him well.
Okay.
As Chancellor, let me make these points. As Chancellor, he stood up in the COVID situation where we could have had millions of people unemployed to support the economy because he cared about the livelihoods of millions of people. He got inflation down on his watch due to the Ukraine war because he cared about the impact on people's livelihoods of inflation and all the cost of living support that went with that. He cares about our veterans. If you look around the cabinet table, you will see Johnny Mercer there representing the veterans right at the highest level in government. The continued funding of that unit within the Cabinet Office. The commitment we've got in the manifesto to make sure that going forward we enshrine in law the kind of support that we believe that our veterans should have. The Prime Minister personally, strongly believes in all of those things. And his commitment and his patriotism is, in my opinion, beyond doubt. Now, that's not the same thing as saying that a mistake was not made. He accepts that. He didn't run away or resign from that situation. What he did was he stood up, he put his hands up, he accepted a mistake had been made, and he unequivocally apologised. And I know he will be feeling these things personally very deeply indeed.
We are talking here about instincts. I've never interviewed you before, but I know enough about you to guess what I think the answer to this question is going to be. If you had been in that position, would you have left?
I think those hypotheticals
No,
are...
if you had been in that position, would you have left? I don't think you would have done.
Look, I've accepted, and the Prime Minister has
I don't think you
accepted,
would have done.
that the
Why can't you
mistake
say that?
was made. Because, basically, I'm accepting that in life, none of us expect to make mistakes. I mean, that's what we try and avoid in life. The Prime Minister has accepted that he made a mistake. He has apologised unequivocally for that, and I think he will be feeling this personally very deeply, because he's a deeply patriotic person, and he will be deeply uncomfortable with what has happened.
Look,
but he put his hands up, he didn't run away from it, and he apologised and said, yes, it was a mistake.
Look, I'm not banging on about this just to kind of make you feel uncomfortable. We're about to make, as a country, a big decision.
Yeah.
Whatever Mr. Sunak's virtues as an administrator, I think lots of people will have looked at that and said, this is the wrong man at the wrong time. Would it not be a courageous and moral act for him to announce that he knows he's leading his party to defeat, partly because of his own actions and his own shortcomings, and that he will now step aside to save seats, which won't be saved if he stays for the next 4 weeks? Is he going to lead you into this election?
There should be, absolutely, and there should be no question of anything other than that. Because what matters now, Trevor, and this is important if I can make this point, is there's a clear choice for the British people. There is a Conservative Party that's brought us through COVID, got inflation down, has now got us growing at the joint fastest rate of the G7 countries, real wages growing for each of the last 10 months. We've got taxes coming down on working people, and we can move us towards a more secure...
By the way, taxes are not coming down, are they? They're going
well, they are.
They're going to be at their highest level, 37.1%
yes, and if you spend
of GDP.
If you spend £400 billion supporting the economy through COVID, getting inflation down, cost of living payments, and so on,
so
you
they're
have to pay that down, as they are in other countries around the world.
Okay.
But the point about them coming down is we have got inflation down now, and we are concentrating now on bringing taxes down.
What you mean is you hope that they will go down, not that they are coming down?
No, they actually have come down. So people are already feeling the benefits of a reduction in national insurance.
Come on.
Trevor, if I can finish my point. So, just give me a little bit of this conversation.
All right.
It'll be great. OK, so the level of national insurance has already been cut by 1/3. That means 29 million people are already getting a tax cut, working people, in their pay packs. It's £900 for an average earner. So, taxes are coming down. And what I'm saying is we can continue that journey, because of our stewardship of the economy and the fact we've got a plan, or we go to Labour, who have no plan, who simply are going for this Ming Vase strategy where they've got a poll lead, they don't want to say anything, tell you anything, no plan, no ideas, anything about the future, in the hope that they will just drift across the line almost without anybody noticing.
All right.
And I think we've got 4 weeks. To your point about whether all is lost, we have 4 weeks left. That's a long time in politics.
Well, look, there's a long time for people to study the facts.
Election.
And I sort of had hoped not to do this because people criticise us in this programme for throwing facts and evidence at people. Let me show you something which was constructed by my colleague, Ed Conway. Here is the changes in taxes between 2019, 22, 23, 24. This is on your watch. Over that period, taxes have gone up £13,000 extra.
Yeah.
Taxes have not gone down, they've gone up.
OK, so the point that I was making was that...
Can we just agree with the facts? They've gone up.
Right, I've just accepted that, Trevor, and I also said it happened in other countries. You look at the Nordics, you look at Germany, you look at France, you even look at the United States, you will see that kind of pattern emerging. Now, it's not surprising. Those years actually go from about the start of the pandemic through a major external shock with inflation due to the European war, and not surprisingly, that is a cost coping with all that has had to be borne. And that's what you're seeing in those charts. My point was slightly different, which is that I've accepted that, but I am saying that the trajectory on taxes is now downward. And I've given you an example. You said there wasn't one. There's a very clear one. £900 for an average earner, a reduction in tax due to the national insurance reduction that we brought in.
We could spend a lot of time. We could spend a lot of time arguing about that. But you've told me the basic point. Mr. Sunak is going to stay there. He's going to launch this week new welfare policy, which he called a moral mission. The triple lock on pensions benefits people like me, costing an extra £13 billion a year. You're going to enhance it to make sure that no pensioner, me, pays tax on that. Do you think that's morally right in a country where a child is twice as likely to be in poverty as a pensioner?
So we have reduced child poverty in this country by 100,000.
No, but you're giving more money
since 2010.
to old people.
But let's move on to the point that you've made about more elderly people. I think it's absolutely right in a civilised society to protect and support those of an older age. They're less likely to be able to change their economic circumstances, for example, by going out to work, etc. And it's therefore right that we stand up for our pensions. Under the last Labour government...
A child can't go out and earn more money either.
And that is why we have welfare policies that help to bear down on poverty. 1.1 million fewer people in absolute poverty since 2010. So our record speaks for itself. Look at Labour and pensioners. Where we don't want to be is the fourth highest level of pensioner poverty in Europe.
Let me deal with...
We've taken pensioners out of poverty, and it's right to do so.
Let me deal with Labour. But it's not just old people you're favouring. You're going to give households that earn £120,000 the full child benefit. And you're going to favour richer older people and well-off families when you're capping child benefit at 2 children per family. I mean, is this the right... Is this the priorities that we're being promised by the Conservative
we believe
Party?
that we should have a welfare system that supports absolutely the most vulnerable, but also there has to, within that, be personal responsibility. And if people choose to have large families, then there has to be some responsibility.
3 children is not a large family. I come from a family
we all
of
make
10.
those choices. People in life make those choices. And what I'm saying is that it's not unreasonable to expect people on welfare in those circumstances where they have 2 children already to make the same kind of choices that you, I and everybody else has to make.
Just to be...
As to pensioners, we can't brand
I just want to be absolutely clear about something, because
very...
I don't want you to be misinterpreted. You're not saying that you think it's somehow morally wrong to have 3 children?
No.
OK, good.
Of course not.
Absolutely not. The only reason I'm asking you is because I'm listening to you and I want to make sure you're not misquoted.
OK, well, thank you for that much, at least, OK, so with pensioners, your point about pensioners, I think you're characterising them as all being terribly well off and comfortable, and why are we giving them more support? We're giving them more support because many of them are actually, in a position where that support is really necessary. Hence the triple lock, which has taken 200,000 pensioners out of poverty since 2010. And the triple lock plus... which will make sure we don't drag them into income tax. Labour
Okay.
will not bring the triple lot plus forward. In fact, they said they'll have nothing to do with it. Millions of pensioners will start paying income tax under a future Labour government.
Okay.
That's the reality.
Mel Stride, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you.